All right, this is Rudy. I just thought my wife and I should collect our thoughts regarding this David Knight, Pete Santilli, Deborah. What's Deborah's last name?
Jordan.
Deborah Jordan clip that we just uploaded. My wife was, I don't listen to Alex Jones. I can't stand his voice. My wife listens to him a lot more than I do. But anyway, what happened there is that David Knight cuts Deborah off mid-sentence. You guys don't even aware of that if you're not aware how the radio program operates. He cut her off. He gives a little self-serving speech about how he'll talk to anybody he wants to talk to and nobody can control him from talking to whoever he wants to talk to. It sounds really good. Like, yeah, go David, you talk to anybody you want to talk to. The problem is that Deborah wasn't given a chance to rebut anything that he said. And who knows? I don't think Pete was trying. How could Pete even control who David Knight speaks to anyway? If David Knight had a communication line to the Bundys, well, David Knight, go use your communication line. Pete couldn't have controlled who you speak to and who you didn't speak to. So your little self-serving speech after you cut Deborah off is pathetic. And it's exactly the same sort of situation where I called the InfoWars Zionist show for months. Literally every single time I'd wake up in the morning, I don't know, for several months, the first thing I'd do is I'd run to the phone and I'd record myself calling the InfoWars hotline, tell them about Ken Hovind. It went on for months, and I would scream and holler into the phone, please pay attention to Ken Hovind, please bring up Ken Hovind on your show. And after months and months and months, and it finally getting to a breaking point where they could not ignore him anymore, that sellout Zionist Jones had him on his show, and before he had him on his show, he made him look like a Looney Tune about, oh, you don't have to believe that the earth is 6,000 years old, and I don't believe like this guy, and it's like...
And he said he was 501c3 when he wasn't.
Right. And let me give you an example. This is how they play the game. I'm not going to name any specific names, but I once asked a pastor to pray for Ken Hovind, right? I said, can you pray for Ken Hovind as he's going through a divorce, his kids took all his stuff, and he's trying to rebuild his ministry. He's an innocent man, spent 9 years in prison.
Got eviction.
Got evicted. He's getting evicted from his house, and he's got the judges and the prosecutors constantly looking, tried to put him in prison for the rest of his life. You know what the pastor did when he got up in front of the church as he brought up the topic of Ken Hovind? Because I guess he felt he had to bring it up since I go to the church and I went to the church at the time. He said, whatever you may feel about Ken Hovind and whatever animosity you may feel and whatever controversy he's brought into the picture, we're supposed to pray for others, and it's like, what? It's like when you introduce a man, you don't say whatever animosity you may feel about them. It's like, what has that got to do? Why can't you just pray for a man who's going through a tribulation? Why do you got to preface it by saying all this crap before you bring up his name? I mean, I don't think he's done anything wrong. And so, to preface it by distancing yourself before you ask for prayer for the man, it just shows where you're coming from. And that David Knight, it's the same thing that Alex Jones did before he did the Ken Hovind interview. You don't have to believe that the earth is only 6,000 years old because Jones is a stupid heliocentric evolutionist, But anyway, David Knight cut Deborah off. He gave a little self-serving speech. He didn't let Deborah rebut anything. We don't even know if Pete Santilli, even if he tried to control David Knight's communications with the Bundys, and even if that is true, how could Pete Santilli even stop it? My wife made a good point, and the point is that whether Pete Santilli is a good reporter or whether Pete Santilli is a bad reporter ain't got nothing to do with whether he's in prison or not. Just because you're a bad reporter, and let's say your attitude is that he is an arrogant, loudmouth reporter, even if you have that attitude, doesn't mean he spent 5 or 10 or 15, 20 years in prison. Okay?
And no due process.
Right? I mean, is that the way we're going to operate? It's like, I don't like you, and Ken Hovind is. How many people told me, well, Ken Hovind is post-trib now, I'm not going to support him. It's like, what? It's like the man's drowning in a river, and you don't like the color shirt he's wearing, so you ain't going to help throw him a life jacket? I tell you what, man, this whole situation is showing people's true colors. And that David Duke interview with Alex Jones really showed Alex Jones' true colors, too. He did not give David Duke a fair shake on that interview. He was constantly, interrupting him and belittling him and not listening to the powerhouse of truth that David Duke was delivering on that show. And shame on David Knight, shame on Alex Jones. I consider them American sellouts. And I wouldn't have anything to do with them. Let's say they do get I don't like them. Just probably like they don't like Pete Santilli. And I doubt anybody will ever need my help anyway. Who the heck am I? But I tell you what, man. If they get thrown in prison, at least I won't. At least I'll say they shouldn't be in prison. If somebody asks me, I say I didn't like the guy. I thought he was a real jerk, a real jackass. But I don't think he should be in prison, you know.
It's just a matter of time until the InfoWars crews rounded up as well for their First Amendment.
Right. And let's remember how they treated Pete Santilli. Let's remember how they ignored Ken Hovind for months. And you know what? And when they do get thrown in prison, even though I can't stand them and I think they're sellouts and I can't even stand to listen to Alex Jones's voice. You know, the worst thing that I'll probably say about him is I don't like him, but you know what? He shouldn't be in prison. But David Knight couldn't even say that. David Knight couldn't even say, I don't think he should be in prison. You know, he just bad-mouthed him and said a bunch of negative stuff and cut Deborah Jordan off. Well, that was rude as hell for David Knight to do that.
Rude.
Anything else you want to say, babe, before I shut this thing down? No?
I think sometimes Christians are the worst.
Yeah. That's why if I ever get stuck in prison, give me a dog. I don't want to be with any other human being at all. You know, I would like to be like what Sean said. Just give me a dog, and that would help me pass the time. But I don't. You know, the ability of Christians to go after one another when tribulation is coming on all of us is absolutely disgusting. It really is, and God help us all.